Hello, I'm Hope Logan. I am an actor on Bold and the Beautiful, and many people really love both me and our Bold and the Beautiful drama. So I've come here to share updates about my beloved Bold and the Beautiful. Everyone, please subscribe and support me. If you do, I will keep coming every day with new updates for you. The tension inside the halls of Forrester Creations was already simmering beneath the surface, but on Wednesday's explosive episode of The Bold and the Beautiful, that tension threatened to erupt into an all-out family war. The moment Ridge Forrester cautiously revealed that Brooke Logan Forrester wanted to slide into the co-CEO position beside him, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Across from him, Steffy Forrester Finnegan could barely hide her disbelief, her confusion quickly transforming into outrage as the truth became impossible to ignore. This wasn't just a casual suggestion or a harmless conversation about the company's future. Brooke wanted Steffy's seat, her authority, and the power that came with it. As Steffy pieced everything together, the realization hit like a storm rolling through the Forrester empire, leaving Ridge trapped squarely in the middle of two powerful women determined to fight for what they believed belonged to them. The emotional weight of the moment pressed heavily on Ridge as Steffy confronted him, demanding answers while her frustration continued to rise with every passing second. For Steffy, this wasn't merely about a title at the company her family built. It was about respect, loyalty, and protecting the position she had worked tirelessly to earn. Her anger ignited as she struggled to understand how Brooke could even imagine forcing Ridge into such an impossible situation. The betrayal cut deeper because Brooke wasn't just a colleague or rival. She was family, someone who already held influence within the company and within Ridge's life. Yet now, in Steffy's eyes, Brooke was crossing a line that should never have been crossed. With fierce determination burning in her voice, Steffy made one thing painfully clear. She was not stepping aside for Brooke, not now, not ever. The co-CEO chair was exactly where she belonged, and she had no intention of surrendering it to anyone. As emotions escalated, Steffy's frustration hardened into resolve, and the battle lines inside the Forrester family became impossible to ignore. She insisted that Brooke already had her place within the company and the family. But this sudden power move was something entirely different. In Steffy's mind, Brooke wasn't trying to help the business. She was attempting to take control. The fierce protectiveness Steffy felt over her role only intensified as she warned Ridge that Brooke needed to stay in her lane and stop reaching for authority that wasn't hers to claim. There was no hesitation when Steffy finally put her foot down completely, forbidding the promotion altogether and demanding that Ridge deliver the message personally. Brooke's dream of becoming co-CEO beside him was not happening. The declaration landed with enormous force, leaving Ridge staring directly into the emotional battlefield he had hoped to avoid. By the end of the conversation, it became painfully obvious that this situation was spiraling into something far more complicated and destructive than he had originally imagined. Caught between his daughter and his wife, Ridge found himself suffocating under the pressure of impossible choices. On one side stood Brooke, unwavering in her belief that stepping into the co-CEO position was the right move for the company and for their future. On the other side stood Steffy, equally determined to protect her role and defend the legacy she believed she was safeguarding. Ridge could feel both women pulling him in opposite directions, each expecting his loyalty, each convinced they were justified. The conflict wasn't simply professional anymore. It had become deeply personal, threatening to fracture relationships that were already carrying years of emotional scars. Every decision Ridge considered seemed destined to hurt someone he loved, and the weight of that reality began settling heavily on his shoulders. The more he struggled to figure out what to do next, the more the entire situation threatened to unravel around him. Meanwhile, far away from Steffy's fury, hope and optimism were beginning to bloom for Hope, Logan, Spencer, and Brooke. For the first time in what felt like forever, they could almost see a brighter future unfolding in front of them. Hope became increasingly energized by the possibility that Brooke's rise to co-CEO could completely change their standing within Forrester Creations and possibly rescue her fashion line in the process. The excitement between mother and daughter created a sharp emotional contrast to the tension consuming Ridge and Steffy. Brooke and Hope allowed themselves to believe that the tides were finally turning in their favor after so many setbacks and disappointments. Their conversations carried an almost celebratory warmth, filled with confidence, anticipation, and dreams of finally having a stronger voice inside the powerful company that had so often pushed them aside. In their minds, a new chapter was beginning, one where they would no longer be forced to stand on the sidelines while others controlled the future. As Brooke and Hope embraced the promise of this potential new beginning, the atmosphere around them felt lighter, almost triumphant, as though victory was already within reach. They imagined a future where Brooke sat beside Ridge at the top of the company, helping shape decisions and opening doors that had long remained closed to them. Hope especially seemed ready to believe that her struggles were finally leading somewhere meaningful, that the heartbreak and professional disappointments of the past might soon be replaced by success and stability. For a fleeting moment, it seemed possible that the Logan women were about to reclaim power and influence inside the Forrester dynasty. But even as their confidence grew, an entirely different storm was brewing elsewhere. Steffy was nowhere near ready to surrender control, and her determination to shut this down threatened to crush Brooke and Hope's dreams before they could fully take shape. By the end of the episode, the emotional divide inside the Forrester family felt deeper than ever, with every character standing on the edge of a major turning point. Brooke and Hope remained convinced that change was finally coming, their optimism shining brightly despite the growing resistance forming against them. Steffy, however, was fully prepared to fight with everything she had to protect her position and stop Brooke's power grab before it could gain momentum. And in the center of it all stood Ridge, torn apart by impossible loyalties, trying desperately to navigate a conflict that seemed destined to explode no matter what choice he made. The halls of Forrester Creations suddenly felt less like a glamorous fashion empire and more like the stage for an emotional war filled with ambition, betrayal, family tension, and shifting alliances, with every conversation becoming more heated and every relationship pushed closer to the breaking point. The future of the company and the future of the family itself hung dangerously in the balance. As the night stretched on and the tension inside Forrester Creations continued to simmer beneath the surface, the emotional consequences of Brooke's shocking ambition began spreading through the family like wildfire. Inside the elegant offices that had witnessed decades of love, betrayal, and power struggles, the atmosphere now carried an unmistakable heaviness. Ridge Forrester could feel the walls closing in around him with every passing moment, knowing that whatever decision he made next could permanently alter the balance inside both his family and the company. The conflict was no longer hidden behind polite conversations or professional discussions. It had become raw, emotional, and deeply personal. Every glance, every silence, and every unfinished sentence carried tension powerful enough to shatter the fragile peace the Forresters had been desperately trying to maintain. And as Ridge wrestled privately with the impossible situation, both women in his life remained completely unwilling to back down. For Steffy Forrester Finnegan, the anger burning inside her wasn't fading. It was growing stronger with every second Brooke's proposal remained on the table. She replayed the conversation repeatedly in her mind, unable to shake the feeling that this was more than just a business disagreement. To Steffy, Brooke's attempt to take the co-CEO seat felt like a direct challenge to her authority, her accomplishments, and even her place within the family legacy. She had poured her energy, intelligence, and determination into helping lead the company, fighting through countless obstacles to prove herself worthy of the position she now held. The idea that Brooke could simply step in and expect Ridge to remove her felt almost insulting. Beneath Steffi's fierce confidence was a deeper emotional wound, the fear that her own father might actually consider choosing Brooke's wishes over hers. That possibility lingered painfully in the back of her mind, fueling her determination to stand her ground no matter how ugly the situation became. Meanwhile, across town, Brooke Logan Forrester allowed herself to dream about a future that suddenly felt closer than ever before. There was a glow of hope surrounding her as she imagined standing beside Ridge not only as his wife, but as his equal within the company they both loved so deeply. Brooke genuinely believed she had earned the opportunity to step into a greater leadership role, especially after everything she had contributed to the family and the business over the years. In her eyes, this wasn't about stealing something from Steffi. It was about securing a future where she and Ridge could lead together as partners in every sense of the word. That belief only strengthened as Hope Logan Spencer shared her excitement and encouragement. Mother and daughter clung tightly to the possibility that their fortunes inside Forrester Creations were finally about to change. After enduring rejection, criticism, and disappointment time and time again, this moment felt like long-awaited validation. Hope's optimism became impossible to contain as she imagined what Brooke's rise could mean for both of them. For so long, Hope had felt like an outsider fighting for recognition within a company dominated by shifting loyalties and family politics. The possibility of Brooke becoming co-CEO represented more than corporate success. It represented stability, influence, and finally having a voice strong enough to matter. Hope could almost picture a future where her fashion line received the support it needed to thrive rather than constantly hanging by a thread. The excitement between Brooke and Hope created a rare emotional warmth, the kind born from believing that years of struggle might finally lead to something beautiful. They spoke with growing confidence about the future ahead, embracing the idea that brighter days were finally within reach. Yet even in those hopeful moments, there was an invisible storm looming just beyond the horizon, waiting to collide with their dreams in devastating fashion. Back at the center of the chaos, Ridge remained trapped in emotional quicksand, sinking deeper the harder he tried to find a solution. Every path forward seemed destined to create heartbreak. If he supported Brooke, he risked alienating Steffi and damaging the trust they shared as father and daughter. But if he sided with Steffi completely, he could crush Brooke's hopes and create painful distance in his marriage. The emotional pressure carved itself across Ridge's face as he realized there might not be any peaceful way out of this conflict. Years of complicated family history only made the situation more explosive, because every disagreement carried emotional baggage from the past. Old wounds that had never fully healed suddenly felt dangerously close to reopening. And somewhere deep down, Ridge knew this wasn't simply about business titles anymore. It was about love, loyalty, identity, and the desperate need each person had to feel valued within the family they fought so hard to protect. As the episode's emotional storm continued building toward its inevitable breaking point, the future of Forrester Creations felt more uncertain than ever. Brooke and Hope stood together with cautious excitement, believing they were finally stepping into a new era filled with opportunity and influence. Steffi, however, remained an immovable force, fully prepared to fight tooth and nail to stop Brooke's promotion before it could become reality. And caught directly between these powerful women was Ridge, a man torn apart by impossible choices and growing emotional consequences. The glamorous world of fashion suddenly felt overshadowed by family betrayal, wounded pride, and simmering resentment ready to explode at any moment. Every conversation now carried the weight of a ticking clock, as if everyone involved understood that one wrong move could trigger a battle capable of changing the family forever. And as viewers watched the drama unfold, one thing became painfully clear. This war for power inside the Forrester dynasty was only just beginning. The deeper the conflict grew inside Forrester Creations, the more impossible it became for anyone to pretend this was simply another disagreement about business strategy. Beneath the polished glamour of the fashion empire, emotions were unraveling in dangerous ways, exposing years of unresolved tension that had quietly lingered beneath the surface. Steffy Forrester Finnegan could sense the shift happening around her, and with every passing moment, her protective instincts only intensified. She wasn't just defending a title anymore. She was defending her family's legacy, her authority, and the future she had fought relentlessly to build. The thought of watching someone else step into the position she believed she had earned filled her with a simmering frustration that refused to fade. Even worse, Brooke's growing confidence made Steffy feel cornered, as though the battle lines had already been drawn without her consent. That realization hardened her resolve even further, pushing her into a mindset where compromise no longer seemed possible. At the same time, Brooke Logan Forrester was moving forward with hopeful determination, unaware of just how fiercely Steffy intended to resist her. In Brooke's mind, this opportunity represented a long overdue evolution in both her personal and professional life. She had spent years standing beside Ridge Forrester through triumphs, heartbreaks, betrayals, and reunions that had tested their relationship over and over again. Now, she envisioned a future where they could finally stand together as equals at the very top of the company. The dream felt intoxicating because it symbolized stability, partnership, and recognition all at once. Brooke believed she could help guide the company into a stronger future while also creating more opportunities for herself and for Hope Logan Spencer. To her, this wasn't about tearing Steffy down. It was about stepping into a role she truly believed she deserved. But the closer Brooke moved toward that dream, the closer she unknowingly came to igniting a full-scale emotional war within the family. Hope's excitement only continued to grow as she imagined what this shift in power could mean for her future. For so long, she had felt like she was constantly fighting to prove herself worthy inside a company where loyalties changed like the wind. Every setback, every professional disappointment, and every moment of feeling overlooked had left emotional scars that she rarely allowed others to see. But now, for the first time in a long while, hope felt real again, not just as an idea, but as something tangible standing directly in front of her. Brooke's rise to co-CEO could finally give them influence strong enough to protect Hope's line and secure their place inside the company. The possibility filled Hope with renewed energy and optimism, creating moments of genuine happiness between mother and daughter. Together, they spoke about the future with glowing anticipation, allowing themselves to believe that years of struggle were finally leading them towards something brighter. Yet beneath that optimism lingered the growing danger that their celebration might be painfully premature. Meanwhile, Ridge found himself emotionally exhausted as the pressure from both sides continued crushing down on him. Every conversation felt heavier than the last, and every attempt to calm the situation only seemed to deepen the divide. He understood Steffi's anger because he knew how hard she had worked to reach her position, and he respected the fierce determination that defined her leadership. But he also understood Brooke's perspective, recognizing the loyalty and dedication she had shown to both him and the company throughout the years. The tragedy of the situation was that neither woman saw herself as the villain. Both believed they were fighting for something meaningful, something deeply personal that they could not afford to lose. That emotional complexity left Ridge standing in the center of a storm with no safe direction to turn. The more he hesitated, the more dangerous the situation became, because both Brooke and Steffy were waiting for him to choose a side, and sooner or later, silence would no longer be enough. As tensions continued escalating, the atmosphere around the Forrester family became increasingly fragile. as though one emotional spark could ignite complete chaos. The once glamorous halls of Forrester Creations now carried an undercurrent of suspicion, rivalry, and emotional uncertainty. Steffi remained absolutely determined to stop Brooke's promotion before it could move any further, while Brooke and Hope held tightly to the belief that their moment was finally arriving. Every character seemed to be standing at a crossroads, their relationships strained by ambition, fear, loyalty, and the desperate need to protect the people and dreams that mattered most to them. Ridge could already feel the emotional fallout building around him, knowing that whatever happened next would leave lasting scars on the family. And as the battle for control inside the company intensified with every passing hour, one truth became impossible to ignore. The struggle for power inside the Forrester dynasty was about to change everything.